Friends, and welcome to episode 151 of the Noclip podcast. Danny here, delighted to be joined by a returning Jeremiah Jane. Jeremy, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing excellent. I had a little time off, hung out with my parents, which was awesome. I showed my parents Spirited Away, which
Wild.
I thought...
I showed my daughter Spirited Away.
I know,
week.
That's why I was thinking about it. My parents and I usually watch like Hitchcock movies and stuff, like classics when we hang out. And
awesome.
I was like, you guys want to like try something different? And they loved it, which I feel like is a real cultural victory for America because my parents are not cinephiles.
Right, yeah.
And they were like, this is my dad who's like 70 was like, that was magical.
Wow. That's also like such a, like, it is a generational movie. Like I was showing it to my daughter because, like, you know, it's very much about a girl coming of age. Like, it's like, it reminds me of a bit of, you know, what was it? My Summer Vacation. How do you say it in Japanese again?
Oh, Boku no Natsuyasumi.
There you go. Boku no Natsuyasumi or whatever. I think I've heard Tim Rogers say it so many times that you think it'll be burned into my head. But
I can teach you how to say it after this. Tell the anecdote first.
Perfect. It's like that, right? Where it's like, you know how you like, remember those summers where you were a different person by the end of the summer? Like that's kind of what that movie reminds me of. But it's the same thing. If your parents are coming to visit you, it's like not, you know, it's a very parent-child kind of movie, you know, even if you are, you know, in your 30s.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's a beautiful movie. I haven't seen it in a long time too. So it was like, I even just in the first 15 minutes, like the Joe Hisaishi score swells the music. And I was getting so emotional. Something about, I don't know, Miyazaki's movies mean a lot to me. And to be able to like share them with my parents and have them be receptive to it was very meaningful. Yeah,
I feel like Spirited Away is the one that you can probably get people who won't, you know, there's a lot of, you know, Kiki's Delivery Service is a little bit out there. Howl's Moving Castle, like a lot of them are, you know, a bit more, Spirited Away is oddly grounded, or at least it's kind of like, here's the real world and we're going into the weird world. It's not just all weird world.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's like the framing device is bringing the audience into it. Whereas if you watch Princess Mononoke, it's like, exactly. Here we are, ancient Japan. Also, monsters are real. And it's like, oh, Jesus, you really like front loaded this thing.
Yeah, My Neighbor Totoro is a bit intense. Where you're like, wow, why is this massive cute wait, is that bus? Is that a cat? What?
It's a lot. Yeah.
That's a... yeah.
So Boku no Natsuyasumi is Boku no. Boku is like a diminutive form of I, like a kid would say like Boku. No is possessive. So Boku no is my. Natsu is summer. And Yasumi is like a break or a rest. So it's Boku no Natsu
Yasumi. There you go. Frank Howley is also here listening to us talk, wearing, what is this leather? Is this a Max Payne leather jacket or what's going on? It looks like Claude Speed, actually, I'll say.
This jacket, I had a friend go to Japan and he brought me back the coolest jacket ever, which I've been wearing nonstop.
Oh my God.
Oh, that rules.
Oh my God. It's got a big anime girl on the back, but like, it's like Frank is part of a biker gang of weebs, you know, just like or otakus or.
I do wear it when I ride my bicycle and I feel very cool.
It looks dope. What's it saying on the back?
Urasei Yatsura, which is the lum, that like old 80s anime of the alien space girl. It's about like a high school kid who like an alien drops to Earth and it's like now she's his girlfriend and it's just like cute weird stuff, but the aesthetic is so beautiful. Yeah.
Does the alien have tentacles?
No, she's got like horns.
Okay. The alien's the girl.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay. Nice.
Yeah, Lum. And it's, I don't know, it's very iconic. It's very cool. But yeah, it's such a crazy, striking jacket. And I saw it. I was like, I want it. I originally saw this jacket for sale at Anime Expo in the summer for like $180.
Oh, wow.
And it was like a worn down, I don't know if it was a bootleg or like an old, like authentic one. It was like, that's too much money for something that looks kind of cracked and worn. But then when my friend was in Japan, he found out that they like rebooted the anime last year, so they're doing pop-ups, and they reprinted this jacket, and he got it for the equivalent of like $50.
Oh, terrific!
So yeah, so
sold it to you for $180.
No, he
$200.
No, he also in Japan went to a Stardom pop-up. Stardom is the Japanese women's wrestling thing that I'm obsessed with. And that's where the Starlight Kid pin is from, the Starlight t-shirt. So like I got so much wrestling merchandise and Lum merchandise that I'm very happy. And now in my head, I want to go to Japan next year so I can buy even more stuff and see wrestling. But I'm very happy.
Nice. You're living your best life. I like it. Japan, yeah, we need to figure something out. We need to get back there. We need to go back, like Jack from Lost GIF. Maybe a game we'll talk about today on the podcast might be The Doorway. Let's check in on that later. But first of all, a massive thanks to all of our incredible Battle Pass holders. Battle Royale games: Arno, Richard Matherson, James Brown, Jason Drury, Mark Rojas, Ryan Cobb, Tucker Morgan, Crimson Cyclist, Sven Huster, Tim Robinson, Forrest Pruitt, Darren Birmingham, Eric Hamilton Schneider, Cameron Ladd, Alex Sharp, Alex Goucher, George Segotis, Tohir Tilyev, and Ryson. Thank you all so much for supporting this nonsense. Supporting Noclip, but also in some ways helping us get Secret Tape off the ground. And it depends when you listen to this podcast, but the big secret thing we were working on for the past couple of months, which was not a Noclip project, but a Secret Tape thing. This is our video production company, white label. You know, we're making videos for other people. It's a way to basically give Noclip sort of a commercial backbone, which allows us even more freedom on the Noclip side, means that more patron money goes to Noclip stuff instead of, you know, extra sort of business costs and stuff. And more than anything, it was my sort of plan to, you know, looking at just how fucked all journalism is and when it comes to the business side, that like all these websites and all these organizations are always reliant on eventually some sort of like higher entity to fund them, and then ultimately what always happens a way of saying like, what if we could make the business ourselves and Noclip could be underneath that, right? Is there a way to do that? And that's what sort of Secret Tape was, and we've done that A16Z series as part of that. But this project is kind of the actual vision for what that thing is. And so just check my Twitter, or like just go to the front of Our Games. It's probably there near the top, maybe. And there'll be something that we've been working on for a couple of months that, I can't stop smiling. I'm just going to leave it at that. I think we'll do like our own little director commentary of it or something at some stage in the next couple of I'm not counting any chickens. I'm just like, once it's up and on the internet, then I'll start to like think about indulging in some of that sort of stuff. But if you're looking for a documentary while you're waiting for us to get our NHL 94 and Return to Monkey Island stuff out in the next week or two, the internet should have you covered with a pretty good one. I'll just leave it at that. I did have a bit of a shock today, though, boys. Everything's fine. Everything's okay. But I was working on the dock, and then I went for a shower, and there was a power outage, PG&E. Yeah. So I've been finalizing this project, which is now about 5 terabytes on my MacBook Pro with an external hard drive, which has all, I have backups. I'm not an idiot, but like when it's 5 terabytes, sometimes it takes a while to move shit. You know what I mean? So like, really, I just need this hard drive to be okay. I don't want to have to like all the extra gameplay you've been recording, Frank, all the lower thirds and stuff we've been producing. It's all here on the machine, and I want it to be okay. And I came in after my shower, after the power came back on about an hour later, and the hard drive would not mount. And I was just like, of course, of course, I need to submit this in like 36 hours. Of course, the hard drive won't fucking mount. Disk repair, nothing will work. It's throwing back errors at me. I'm like, it's got the name, and I'm pretty sure it's not that fucked, but I'm just like, oh God. So I'm packing everything up to go to the studio to see if I can rectify it there. I'm like, oh, I'll hook it up to a PC or something. I was like, oh, I have a PC here actually. but I couldn't find like USB-C to USB cable for the thing. And all. Then my wife eventually, like, she was calm and she like found a cable, gave it to me, and I was like, okay, I'll check it here. Went to turn on this PC. I smelled smoke and I was like, what the fuck? And then the BIOS screen said like, oh yeah, we got a power surge. It's on a surge protector, so I don't know what happened, but it said we got a power surge last time this machine was turned on. Hit restart again, see if it works that time. Thankfully, the second time I did it, it booted, and I'm literally podcasting on it right now, so it seems like it's okay. And then I hooked up the external to that one, and it got it, but it wasn't happy with it. And then I ran disk repair on Windows, and it was okay. And then I plugged it into the Mac, and it was like the longest 15 seconds of my life to see if it would mount, and it did. So I'm like, okay, so right now it's unplugged. I did some work on it earlier, taking a break to podcast. I like unconnected it, unplugged it. I need like an uninterruptible power supply or something here, just to, but it was just like, I've never had a hard drive fail on me literally ever. I'm like super careful with that stuff. And it was just like, don't do this to me. Don't do this to me 18 hours before I have to submit this thing.
It's the end of the edit. Like, I feel like, here's my theory about editing. I think towards the end of any sufficiently large edit, there is a proportional like novelty well that opens in the universe, and strange shit there's like a shamanic madness that comes over you towards it. It's a lot like taking LSD. Like, things will happen to you that wouldn't happen otherwise. Right. I was tripping in Boston one time, and a dude walked up in a trench coat and said, "Do you want to see my snake?" And I obviously thought he was like a sex criminal. And then he opened his jacket and he had a giant snake around his neck.
Wow.
And I feel like editing is the same thing, where things will like just the power will go out. A tree fell in my yard and like ripped down the power lines when I was like ripped them to the ground and exploded into sparks when I was 2 days away from finishing an edit. It just happens.
My God. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, so that's not making me feel any better. So hopefully
now you're through.
I'm through it.
Through the window, yeah.
Okay.
No, one of my all-time favorite books is 11/22/63, the Stephen King novel about the guy who gets sent back to time to prevent the JFK assassination, but he gets sent like way too early, so he has to live like 4 years in the 60s. But it's like that, like this cosmic horror where like as it gets closer to like the deadline, the date, more and more insane shit happens. Like he's on a phone booth and a drunk driver crashes into the phone booth. Like trees will fall down. Like he'll lose his keys. The engine won't start. As it gets closer and closer, it's like the universe does not want this thing to happen.
That's
so
awesome.
like the fact they had a power surge is like even I've been like anxious sleeping at night. Like, okay, it's going to happen, right? Like, I'm so excited, but
totally. Yeah. I mean, the minute this and it's hard to talk around this, but the minute this project came through, it was like, well, now like I'm not going to be settled until this thing is on the internet, because like anything could happen. Like I was out yesterday doing a chore after work, and I was like, if a truck hit me now, this video would never come out. And that's what I was worried about.
Yeah.
Not like, my child growing up fatherless or anything. No.
I've had that same thing. I was, it was like towards the end of the first devlog I worked on, and the first Noclip doc I ever hosted, the Death's Door one.
Yeah.
I remember I had to go get a backup drive from Best Buy, and I went to my roommate and I was like, can you not leave the house for a minute? And he said, what are you talking about? I was like, yeah, just like, I have like backups, but like they're here and I'm going to like bring one with me. But like, what if I like die and someone breaks into the house at the same time? Like you just get so superstitious.
It's awful, isn't it? I have this project we've been working on for so long, but it's so big. So I have it on backup hard drives, but like a lot of them can't fit the whole thing because it's just like so many interviews, so much gameplay. There's just so much, and it's so like this. So I got a 10 terabyte drive here, and it's like over half full. So yeah, I'm excited to get it out. If nothing else at this stage, so that I know that the universe can't stop it from coming out. So if it didn't come out, if you're listening to this on Saturday maybe, and there's nothing on my Twitter and there's nothing on our games that looks like anything that we might have worked on, then assume I got a Final Destination by Forces Unknown. But anyway, we're not here to talk around a project. We're here to talk about actual bona fide video games. Frank's going to talk about Like a Dragon Gaiden, the man with no name. Jeremy wants to talk about Chants of Senaar. And I've got a couple of ones here I want to chat about. Let me go first, if you guys don't mind, just because I got two of them here, although we did talk about Jusant last week. Jesse did. I've just really enjoyed it. A game I played while I was under embargo, and then I forgot when the embargo was up, but it has been out for a little while now, is The Invincible. You may have seen a trailer for this. It was very, I don't know, it's visually very striking. It's based on, I don't know if it's a graphic novel. It might be a graphic novel. I think it is actually, now that I think about it, because I think they show pages in the game itself. But it's an what's the publisher again? It's what, 8-bit? No, 11-bit. Sorry, 11-bit Studios. Starward Industry is the name of the developer. It is, I don't want to say it's a walking simulator, but it is 100% in the lane of walking simulators. My thing I hate about it, the only thing I hate about it actually, is the fact that they don't let you run in certain, which I guess maybe thematically makes sense, but it's just a slow game. But it's developed by a Polish independent dev, Starward Industries, not Star Wars. I was about to say Star Wars Studios. Starward Industries, which I think is a bunch of ex-Sedep Rajak and Techland folks. So it's a science fiction novel, that's right, written by Polish author Stanislaw Lem, which I do find very interesting that we had this. We obviously have Sapkowski, is it, with The Witcher, and then we have The Thermitage coming out in the next while, which is another Polish sort of world that's been created, but it sounds like that's an original thing that they've put together. So this game, The Invincible, it takes place, it is basically a sort of hard sci-fi story. You are on a planet, you have lost your memory for reasons that are actually like explained very early and make actually a lot of sense, and you start to get a lot of it back. It's like more of a story hook. And essentially you are you're on this distant planet, very alien world, and you are attempting to understand what happened to your mission. You're talking with somebody who's on a space station above you, or a spaceship above you. You're trying to recover data, find the other people who are part of your mission, I guess. And it involves a lot of exploring, a lot of seeing this world, a lot of interacting with stuff. It's super linear. You're using tools and stuff. It's very narrative heavy. It's not about, you get to choose dialogue options from time to time, which I'm not sure how much that really impacts the gameplay. But its strongest assets, I think, are the fact that the world design is really incredible. Like, it's a very interesting, compelling, grounded, realistic alien world. And I think the writing and the voice acting is stellar. It was a game that I found the gameplay of to be quite laborious at times, but the story and the way it was executed was so compelling that I couldn't help myself but keep playing. So I think it kind of gets away with it maybe a little bit. But it's very much, you are walking, do the thing. There was a couple of times where I didn't do the thing exactly the way they wanted the thing to be done, and I had to like backtrack to do the thing to sort of get the story back on the rails so it could keep moving. But just stylistically, I've really enjoyed it. I'm almost at the end. I'm like, I just haven't stuck the landing, finished the last part of it yet. But yeah, it's a very believable sort of thrilling. It's all the stuff about that type of hard sci-fi that I really like. We've talked a lot about like the books that I've enjoyed reading, like the Imperial Ratch trilogy and Forever War and stuff like that. It's that type of philosophical, it's a very human grounded story, but it's sort of dealing with concepts and stuff that are about death and life and existence and purpose and stuff like that I really like. I bet it's a really good book, and you can tell that they've done really well to sort of capture a lot of that in the game.
What are there like I assume when there's a game that's narratively driven and kind of linear like this, it's sort of like puzzles or the like gameplay friction. Is that what's going on here?
Yeah, that's fair to say. I would say discovering things almost as much. Like so you have a couple of tools. You have like tools that are like, one is a kind of like a metal detector type thing. Another is what would you call it? What's it a pirate uses? A telescope, one of those kind of things.
Spyglass.
Spyglass, yeah. So, for instance, a good way of explaining it maybe is literally telling you about this sort of opening puzzle that they do, which is you wake up and you have a sort of a map, or it's like a sketchbook. There's a really well detailed, the inventory and UI I think is really well done. It's all first person. I should have mentioned that. Sorry. And it's you wake up and there's a sketchbook that basically has like a map drawn out of where you are and where you were going, and on it there are like 3 sort of cliff faces, and your character prior to at the start of the game has written like wolf, crow, and something else beside them. And then if you look up at the mountains from that position, you can kind of see which ones that look like specific animals. So you know, get out your spyglass, look at them, and then it gets marked on the map. So it's very light touch stuff like that. You're not going up to like a, you know, like a door that has a keypad that you have to like press the buttons in the right order or anything like that. It's more the game puts like a sort of a soft barrier in front of you, and then it's almost like narrative puzzles. Like you just kind of like do the thing that the game wants you to do or like, you know, you find the camp, and the objective in the top corner will be like, try and find this piece of equipment. And so like you're just going through the different tents or whatever it is and trying to like locate this thing. And then when you do, it might trigger a conversation with the person who's in your earpiece. You might meet somebody there who triggers a conversation. You spend a lot of the game, majority of it, like with nobody else around you. There's like an android robot that's in there for a while. There's some others. I'm intentionally trying to be as sort of loosey-goosey with the details as possible, because that's kind of the whole point. But yeah, there's a lot of just like light touch exploration based puzzles, I would say, more than like, you know, here's a Monkey Island style, can't combine these 3 items or find this thing or use this or, you know, do this door puzzle or stuff like that. It's more you're just trying to push the story along, I guess, if that makes sense. It kind of plays more like a game like a Walking Dead or something, you know, where you're mostly just walking around talking to people. It's kind of the thing.
I was going to say Firewatch. It sounds kind of like a sci-fi Firewatch a little bit.
That's
I love
really
that
good
game.
Yeah.
I feel like games like Firewatch kind of opened my eyes to how much atmosphere is. I mean, this is like survival horror games too. We talk about this with Silent Hill and stuff. But I feel like the game, you can get away with very, very simplistic gameplay as long as the game is sufficiently absorbing me. Like if the thoughts going through my head idly are like, oh wow, this is really immersive or scary or cool or interesting, or I want to explore this world, then I don't even have space in my head to be like, I'm kind of just like walking around. You know what I mean?
Totally. And that's, and like Firewatch is a game. There's a line in the Return to Monkey Island documentary which I really like, and it's Rex Crowell, the artist, the art director for the project, and he is basically saying, I forget how he said it, but it was basically like in adventure games we don't give you like, you don't win anything at any stage, you just win the chance to see a new room. You know what I mean? Like you just win art, you win like, you know, here's this new place you didn't see before. And that's kind of like what these games are like too, where it's, you know, Firewatch was a game where it was really cool when you like saw the, you know, they talked about the lake for a long time, and then when you got to see the lake, it was like, oh yeah, there's the lake, you know what I mean? Like, or you got to talk about the tower, and then you got to go up the tower. It was like, so that was the reward. And in the same way, the world of this planet is very, you know, it's a sort of, you know, it's not there's no, you know, it's not like full of big cities, or it's a sort of a stark planet. Again, I'm being vague. But the nature of stuff on that planet is very alien in a sort of sort of grounded in pseudoscience, if that makes sense. Like it's grounded in a science, but it's maybe not our science. And so it's very just interesting to be in that world where you're not quite sure where the threat is, you know, like, what's going on? Is there some radiation we don't know about? Is there some antagonistic force here we don't know about? You know, where is there a life form we don't understand? It's a lot of that. And as it peels back the layers, it actually gets more and more interesting. So I haven't finished it. I don't know if it sticks the landing, but I've just really enjoyed learning about this place and trying to trying to sort of survive it, I guess, that type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun just to like be thrust into. I mean, we were talking about Spirited Away and kind of having the framing device of the movie be like, okay, you're in the normal world, and now here's this weird place.
Yeah.
I like games are kind of just like I love being thrown into the weird place and just having to put together the rules. Yeah, Chants of Senaar, which we'll talk about in a minute, is a very similar experience.
I should mention this game is $29.99 on Steam, which feels fair to me. I think if this was a full price game, I would be less glowing about it because it is quite, it's very linear. When I played it, it was pre-release, so I believe they've patched it a bunch of times. So I don't even want to say that I had a couple of little bugs here and there. It looks really good. I'm playing it on, I forget what my code is on. It's not on PC. It might be on PlayStation. I think it might be PlayStation. I would suggest that people don't go look at trailers or like go to the Steam page. Like go to the Steam page and see the first picture, and if that looks, digestible to you, then you should be okay. But I wouldn't spend a lot of time looking at the trailers because there's not that many like big exciting moments necessarily in the game, and the chances are that all of them are going to be in the trailer. So just buyer beware on that end. To me, it feels like it's not. I'm not saying it's like the best game I've played this year. I don't think it'll necessarily make my top 10 of the year, but it would probably make my top like 5 for like story and atmosphere. So I think if you're in that mood, you know what I mean? If you're playing Alan Wake and you're like, this is hardcore, it's scaring the shit out of me. I'm having to like do a lot of combat. I want to play something that's a little bit more smooth. Like this is a good like glass of whiskey game. You know what I mean? Like just sit down for a couple hours and enjoy it. And I think for what the type of game they tried to make, it feels like they did a really good job of making one of those. Rough edges aside, I'm glad that I spent time playing The Invincible, available on Windows, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X/S. Did you guys have any final questions about it, or did we kind of sum it up?
What do you think, Frank?
No, it looks cool. I see that it's like Steam Deck verified. I remember seeing a trailer for this like a year or two ago, and it's like, this looks cool. I'm afraid any questions I ask will lead to spoilers.
Yeah, me too.
I know, like I want to ask like, oh, are there skeletons in space? But like, no, yeah, I don't know. I imagine there's like the story hook you more than like Starfield, because like I think even looking at the vibe of this is so colorful, and I'm like, yes, this looks interesting.
That's a very good point to raise, actually, because Starfield feels so like. I think one of the things that works with Skyrim is that Skyrim kind of feels a little bit like a theme park version of what it is, and so does kind of Fallout. Like they feel like. If somebody told you that the whole thing was done in a theme park, you'd be like, oh yeah, of course. Like none of this is like feel like the towns in Skyrim aren't big enough to support the economies in them. You know what I mean? Like it's just ridiculous. Like they've got these huge cathedrals and like 60 people live here. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like none of it makes any sense. And I think it kind of works with games like in the Elder Scrolls series and Fallout because they're so like, what's that phrase where you have to like to believe something, you sort of like you suspend your disbelief or whatever. Like you sort of do that, right? But the problem with Starfield, I think, is that like when you do sci-fi, it really has to be grounded, I think, in a way that feels like it is the future. And Starfield, again, does the same thing where it feels like it's contemporary, but it's just now we're in space. In the same way that like Skyrim feels a bit like, oh, it's just people from here, but in this weird fantasy world. And Fallout's kind of the same thing. It's like, oh, it's just weird people, but we're in this post-apocalyptic. It doesn't feel very real or anything. And Starfield to me doesn't feel the way my favorite hard sci-fi does, where it's like it's alien in ways that aren't just the planets.
Yeah.
It's aliens in the way society is, you know? It's
yeah,
alien.
Starfield is a bit like you travel like 1,000 light years to a distant planet, and the guys there are like, you see the Packers game, and you're like, come on, man,
totally.
like I want like something a little different than this.
100%, and they try and have their weirdnesses here and there, you know, but it does feel that you're right. It does feel that way. Whereas this feels like this is a very, you know, the cultural touchstones of the way things operate here are not the same as. in the same way that The Witcher does. You know, The Witcher feels that way too. And I think a large part of it is because it's coming from a Polish perspective. And in many ways, this has a very interesting blend of sort of cosmonaut, astronaut, communist, technocrat sort of stuff going on, which feels very Polish, you know, wedged between those two worlds. So, yeah, it's funny, though. You're right. I think this is a very chalk and cheese feel about sci-fi when you put it next to Starfield in particular. I definitely preferred this type of weird. It's not full No Man's Sky weird, but it's like, you know, it's pretty weird. Let's jump into a game that is very much grounded in our society. Maybe not our society, but on our planet. Like a Dragon, Gaiden, the man with no name. They are just pumping these games out, man. What is going on? They're all like fucking 7,000 hours. And this one you can date Twitch streamers. Like, what's going on?
So even like with the whole series, forever they were called the Yakuza games, and then I think as the director of that studio left, they've kind of like passed the franchise over, and now they've rebranded the series to Like a Dragon. So the man who erased his name is like a epilogue to Kiryu's story. This takes place after Yakuza 6, before Like a Dragon, where the new protagonist is. And this is very much like a silly side story. I think this was originally supposed to be like DLC or an expansion to Like a Dragon, but they buffed it up enough and released it as its own game. So the nice thing about this Like a Dragon, if you've never played a Yakuza game, this isn't a bad place to jump in. This is apparently a shorter game, like a much shorter game. I think you can beat this all in under 30 hours. I've already had one friend, the game just came out like a week ago, who already 100% completed it.
Oh, wow.
Like all achieved. So I'm trying to think the context. For number one question people ask, because these games are so confusing and so deep now, is back to the original beat 'em up style of Yakuza games.
Okay.
There's like 3 Yakuza series now. There's the Yakuza beat 'em up with Kiryu. There is Judgment, which is the like detective sleuthing one, which I beat, but I did not like those. And then Like a Dragon, which is the new JRPG ones, the Hawaiian one, that's gonna be January. So Like a Dragon Gaiden, the man who erased his name. It's a very silly game. The premise is Kiryu is like no longer in the criminal underworld. He's retired, but he still funds an orphanage. Someone finds out Kiryu's still around. So they kind of like blackmail him into becoming a secret agent hitman for their organization.
They John Wick him?
They John Wick him. And so in order to protect these children, he's got to do missions for this criminal underground, but he still has to protect his secret identity because he doesn't want anyone finding him at his orphanage. So instead of Kiryu, it's Joryu. So it's Joryu. And like, I just did a mission where you're in a coliseum and you have to like fight your way to prove your test. And everyone's like, who's this new Joryu guy? If you're tough, you got to fight the most legendary Yakuza, Kiryu.
Oh, no.
And some guy walks out and it's like obviously not Kiryu, but it's like, yeah, I'm like someone took your identity and is like in this criminal underworld getting all these girls and stuff because he's pretending to be you.
Funny.
And when again, these games are funny. When you fight him, it says like obviously fake Kiryu or something like that. And you beat him up so easily. So yeah, this game is so silly. Also because Kiryu is now a secret agent, you have gadgets. So you have like in the middle of battle, you can throw a cigarette that explodes.
And these are the old school. So it almost reminds me of like the Birdie Brawl from Matrix Reloaded or something, where it's like, it's him fighting just like 20 people.
Yeah.
And you're
So they like boosted the engine like since Like a Dragon because like you've never had this many enemies on screen. Like it's like if you're fighting like 20 people and one of your abilities is like spider webs and you can like throw out like I don't know whatever spider web whatever grappling hooks whatever, and you can like rope up enemies and swinging them around, and the physics is great. You throw them, they knock over chairs and stuff.
Oh, great.
You can summon drones that just come down and sting people. Obviously like it's a beat 'em up in the classic like Sega way, where it's like you pick up chairs, baseball bats, knives, like and bicycles on the street. Like it's so great. And what I like about this one too is I feel like, yeah, I don't know, a lot of the Yakuza games you get bogged down with lore. There's so many of these games. They try to like, they really pay homage to all these characters. This one feels so quick. Like, all right, here's the silly plot. Go beat up people. And so, yeah, I've only put maybe my save file says 5 hours, but a lot of that's like idle time. So I probably put like 3 to 4 hours. But it's great. It is on Xbox Game Pass. I got the PS5 version. Now the number one thing I always look for in all of these games do have like a nightclub or like dating sim stuff.
Yeah.
This one, it's the Cabaret Club. And what they've done this time
This is great.
is, it is very like, it's, you're going to these escort clubs where you sit down, you pick a lady and you talk to her. And what they did is they have like full motion video of these actresses, and a lot of them are like gravure models. One of them is a streamer, Kason.
Yeah, she's like a big Yakuza streamer, right?
Yeah. And so I guess she collabed with Sega to be in it. And it's just like, you talk to these girls, and depending on your answers, they like you or they don't like you. And as you further level them up, you unlock like a very sexy, cute like video. So Kason's is like her working out and getting sweaty, and it's just like the most gratuitous, like, and at the end it's like, I'm so hot, do you want to take a shower together? And it doesn't show the shower, but it's very ridiculous.
It's DLC, I think you gotta.
Yeah. So now I've only maxed out one girl. There's now 5 I can hang out with. So
I'm
gonna
max out all 5, Frank Howdy.
Yes,
Okay,
yeah. And what's funny too is like throughout your the mini game stuff, as you're talking to these girls, you can give them presents, and every single time I just give them Mountain Dew, because Mountain Dew is there's Mountain Dew, there's Pepsi, there's a lot of like Japanese snack products. You go into the 7-Elevens or I forget what you call them, the Poppos, and you just give them like teppanyaki or whatever, and they like you more. But,
can you get that bread that me and Jeremy saw that was, what did it say? Bread making you the better feeling or something?
It was like bread for making the everyday.
That's what it was.
Happier. It was
the everyday
unbelievable.
Happier. Yeah, or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, loved it.
What's impressive with this too is like the textures are so detailed, because it's running on the PS5. It's like I don't know if it's newer. It's the Like a Dragon engine, but like in the convenience store, you can see like the textures are very high quality. So you can see magazines.
I'm watching the footage on the Steam page, and the frame rate looks amazing. Is that the case on PS5 as well?
Yeah, it's awesome. Like I feel, no, you know what? I feel like I can't remember if Like a Dragon, like the JRPG one, I think it launched. I played it. I played the PS4 version first, so I can't remember if it was capped at 30. So it's nice that like they eventually made a PS5 version of this, and I think there is a PS4 version of this game, but like it feels like you're finally playing a next gen version of Yakuza. And Lost Judgment was that too, but I just didn't like that game.
Yeah.
But so this runs great. Again, the physics, the amount of characters, the density, the silliness of it is super good. I'm excited to keep playing. Like like this also reminds me very much of Yakuza Kiwami, which was the remakes of 1 and 2, which they were already small, short games, and they just filled with silly side content. So like there's an A story there, but doing all the side stuff, there is in the Like a Dragon JRPG, there was the equivalent of like a Pokemon system where it's like you have to collect all these enemies and beat them up, and you level up. This one, it's one of your friends in the underworld. Basically, just here's all the people in the city who need help. Go talk to them. Everything is on your map, all the side quests and activities. So it's like you're kind of not wasting time. You can just pick whatever you want to do, and you're constantly leveling up. So there's beat 'em up things. People need help. Getting food, getting items. You can use your Spider-Man abilities to like get a kid's ball stuck in a tree. Just silly, stupid stuff like
Normal
that. So
stuff. Important question, Frank Kelly. Did you pony up for the Legendary Fighter Pack? Because DLC, they try and get you, but you can get a Majima skin in this pack.
Oh, I don't know. I think I got the deluxe edition, so that might be included.
I think so. I think it came with it. You can
the digital deluxe.
Goro Majima, the Mad Dog of Shimano, Taiga Sejima, the Slayer of 18, and of course Daigo Dojima, the 6th chairman of the Tojo clan. You can enter the Colosseum and play as or alongside any of those gentlemen, and we all love Majima around these parts with his awesome pirate patch. The funniest thing to me about this is this game came out, what are we, November something at the moment, right? Came out last week. Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, which is also one of the funniest titles ever, is out in the end of January.
Yep.
Like what? Like
what? If you beat this game, it's on the menu. You can play the demo for Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth.
Wait, only if you beat the game?
Only if you beat the game.
Is brilliant.
Yeah.
That is absolutely brilliant. Oh my God. So no wonder your friend was like mainlining it.
Yeah, I think, and already I'm seeing screenshots. I saw a screenshot on Twitter from the demo that like someone said like, oh, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth's going to be like Earthbound because you're running around America with people like this, and it was like in like a McDonald's or something, and you talked to a guy that was like fast food enthusiast. It was a big fat guy in a Hawaiian shirt, and it said, "Hamburgers are good for you." Ha ha ha.
Oh my god, that's the most Itoy dialogue I've ever heard.
Yeah, it's like that. Yeah.
There's a screenshot that I saw a while back, and I'm just finding it here in the Steam page as well, which is you riding a bicycle with like a DoorDash style backpack on, and and the game looks like Crazy Taxi, like it's got big circles around people.
So,
so is that like, does he end up in Hawaii and like have to get like a job as a DoorDasher or like an Uber driver or something? Like,
that's what I heard is so the new Infinite Wealth, whatever, they're gonna have a Crazy Taxi mini game.
Infinite Wealth,
and I think
right. Is he coming to America? Is this a like American Dream game? Because that is so funny to me if they're doing this.
And I think like, because my friend works at Sega, and I think he got to meet the director of Crazy Taxi. So I don't know if like they actually got the OG guy to come in and work on it. But it's like, that's what I love about these Sega games. Also, the arcade stuff in Yakuza, in this current one, Like a Dragon, Man with No Name, they have Daytona USA 2, which I don't think has ever been made available. They because of licensing stuff, they don't call it Daytona USA. It's like Fast Car Racer 2. But once you start, it's Daytona stuff. Fighting Vipers 2 is in here. Like it's just like there's so much stuff. These games are also just tributes to the history of Sega. Like there's so much cool stuff in here, and a lot of the people who used to make all the incredible Sega arcade games now work on this stuff. It's just, I don't know. As a fan who loves Sega's silliness, their charm, these games still have it, and they always make me smile. They always make me laugh. And the gameplay this time, compared to Lost Judgment, is like so fast and fun and immediate. So I very much like it.
Good stuff.
I've been watching my girlfriend play this game because I like the Yakuza games in tone. I'm not super into beat 'em up games, but she is obsessed with this franchise. So I've been watching her play them for a while, and specifically this one this week. And the thing that strikes me so much is they do a lot of flashbacks to characters that I don't recognize because I haven't played the other games. And I feel like there's a lot of potential where they could have leaned into that more and just been like, hey, remember this guy? Hey, remember this guy constantly. But I feel like even not knowing who any of those people are, the world itself is so, or like the tone of the character's delivery is so internally consistent. It's not like I guess what I'm saying is they could have gone a very kind of like meta, like Marvel-y thing where the characters are kind of speaking for the writers and like commenting on the meta nature and the interconnection. But I feel like all of the storylines are so like the most ridiculous shit is happening around these people, and they're just speaking so plainly and matter-of-factly and grounded in the world. And it just like, I don't know. There's something about the tones that's it's so sincere, and like when they do silliness, it's still like sincere. Like the characters are in this world being sincere, even when things are, even when there's like a diaper man.
That's wild. That means there's going to be 3 Yakuza games that came out in one 12-month period, right? Because wasn't there one earlier this year as well?
At the beginning of the year was the remaster of the Samurai one, which I forget what that one, Yakuza Gaiden. I don't know. There's so many titles. Ishin, which is the samurai one, which like I liked, but I bounced off just because the setting is like you're in a Japanese farm town. Like there's just
Once I like all the escort videos. Frank was
and I delivered I delivered increasingly large vegetables for this lady.
Oh my god, forgot about that.
Yeah.
Oh
no,
my God.
I liked it, but there's something about I like the thrill of walking around like the equivalent of Tokyo, the equivalent of Osaka, and it's very Japanese city, whereas like the rural stuff in the Samurai one kind of lost me a bit. They're still good, but this was the one I was waiting for.
No Sega arcade machines for Frank to enjoy. That is Like a Dragon Gaiden, the man who erased his name. Sorry, I got the name wrong at the start. Jeremy, let's bounce over to you. Chants of Senaar. This one, I've seen it on Steam. Is it available anywhere else? Did you play it anywhere else?
I played it on Steam, so I'm not 100% sure.
I'll check first. There's a demo available on Steam as well, just heads up to everyone. Apparently, it is also available on Switch, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, GeForce Now, and Microsoft Windows.
Wonderful. I'll be switching over to GeForce. I'm at the end of the game, but I'll switch over to GeForce Now moving forward. Chants of Senaar is it's a puzzle game about languages, but it is also kind of like the presentation of it. It kind of surprised me. I wasn't really sure what to expect, other than that it has this kind of Mobius kind of looking cell shaded graphic novel-y kind of look to it. And it's got this semi-fixed camera perspective like old survival horror games, which is, I'm a sucker for. So it has these like beautiful bits of cinematography in it. But the game itself is you're kind of like a stranger in a strange land, and you don't speak any of the language. And basically, it starts you off very slow and kind of linear, where there'll be a guy and he'll be like, "Rrr," and then it'll be 4 characters you don't understand. And
Right.
based on inference and context and what's going on around you and just looking around, you basically have to just kind of infer what people are saying to you, having no grasp of the language. And then you have a notebook. And what happens is, as you see new characters, like letters, they're like pictographs. It's more like kanji in Japanese, where each character is a word. You open your notebook, and those characters appear in your notebook. And before you lock them in, you can guess what they mean. So you hit triangle, and it brings up a keyboard. And you're like, I think this is like apple or whatever. And you type in apple.
Right.
And then henceforth, when you see someone say that word, above it in a different color text will be your like guess as to what the word means. And so it's fun because as you start to guess what things mean, you can either go down the wrong kind of rabbit hole on guessing what words mean, and then people will be like saying total nonsense things. And you're like, oh, geez, I thought for sure that meant soldier, but now everyone is, this guy's like hungry for a soldier. So I guess I was wrong about that.
Funny. Is this a Tower of Babel thing?
It might be. It does have a tower, and it is all about different languages. And
it takes place on a tower or something?
The whole game is like ascending through a tower that's has like a caste system. Yeah.
And is there lots of different languages?
Yes.
Oh, it must be a Tower of Babel.
It's got to be. It didn't even occur to me, but you're totally right. So there's a bunch of different languages, which is also fun because then you'll find like a tablet somewhere, and it'll be like all warriors must carry weapon, and then you'll see a new language you don't have, and then you're like, oh, well, that it's the same 4 characters. It must mean all warriors carry weapons. But then you get into linguistic rules and twists on that. So like you'll find a new language, and it's like, oh, the verb comes at the end of the sentence in this language. So
that's wild.
So it leads to like mistranslations and stuff that are really, really interesting. It's like one of the best puzzle games I've played in a really long time. It's very surprising and challenging.
I went to the Tower of Babel Wikipedia page. For those who don't know, the Tower, because I feel like the Tower of Babel is also like it's like an idiom that's used wrong. Like people use it like House of Cards or something. You know what I mean?
Really?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just me, but I think in like Greek myth, it's like, what was it? It was a city where everyone spoke all these different languages, but the whole thing was that like the gods didn't want humanity to speak one language, because now I'm going to get it wrong, because they'd be able to like learn too much and cooperate too well. So they like split us all into different languages and shit like that. But apparently I need to relearn my Greek mythology. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I just went to it, and they said that this united human race, speaking a single language and migrating eastwards, comes to the land of Sennaar, which is not that far from Senaar.
Yeah.
So,
no, it's got to be that. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's really cool. Wow.
Yeah. So that's really interesting. Yeah, I think Tower of Babel, they all spoke the same language, and then they were building a tower to the heavens or something.
That's right. That makes sense.
Yeah,
you're right.
The gods were like invented Spanish, and they were like, now half of you don't speak English.
And then nobody could get along or talk to each other. Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
No, that's crazy. It did not even occur to me, but that's such a clear influence once you pointed it out. So you're basically just working your way through these different zones.
It's also probably like a Hebrew or a Mesopotamian thing. I don't think it's
I think it's an Abrahamic thing.
Right.
But yeah, this game is really cool. It's beautiful. It's like intriguing. It's kind of there are some brief stealth sections, which are my least favorite part of the game. I kind of feel like they don't necessarily need to exist, but they kind of serve a thematic and narrative purpose of, you understand this isn't just like a peaceful jaunt where you're learning languages. You're kind of like making your way up through a tower against adverse forces.
So you're like avoiding them, like view cone style kind of.
It's pretty stripped down. It's more just like you'll have like a set piece puzzle, and you'll see like dudes walking down a hallway and guards on either side, and then you're like, okay, I need to time it so that when I walk in front of the guards, the dudes are blocking their view or something.
Okay,
it's very, very simple, and it's pretty forgiving. Like if their puzzles are pretty short, the stealth puzzles, and if you mess up midway between, it kind of starts you midway through the puzzle, even though it's one room. So I kind of feel like they probably play tested this, and a few people got frustrated on the stealth stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's been it's been like 10% or less of the experience has been that stuff. And mostly it's just like going around and trying to like solve what different words mean through inference. And I don't know, I was shocked how much mileage they got out of this concept, because I thought it was just going to be like comparing things people said. But I'm trying to talk around how they do it, but there's a million different ways where they like I'll say one that's not spoilery, where you there's like a little monkey next to kind of like a I don't know what you call it, like he like cranks a thing, and it's like a little like puppet show kind of for kids, and under it it'll say like, word, and then the puppets kind of represent like, like a farmer holding a saw, and it's like, oh, that must mean like farmers hold saw, or like farmer use tool, you know what I mean? It's stuff like that. But it's brilliant.
Cool.
I think this game is really, really clever. It really surprised me.
According to the Steam page here, overwhelmingly positive, with both recent and all reviews, about 4,500, let's say, since it was released not too long ago, in September of this year. Chants of Senaar, like I said, demo available as well to check it out, but it is only $20. How's the music? They're selling the soundtrack on vinyl here, which usually means that they'll put some effort into the music.
Yeah, it's good. It's kind of like it's funny because I hadn't really thought about it until you mentioned it, and I think that's a sign that it's like it's working as kind of a scoring should be. Like it's not calling it's not like Death's Door where the music like swells and I'm like
Hotline Miami.
Yeah, exactly. It's it doesn't call attention to itself, but it's very kind of it sets the mood properly. If you feel like you're a stranger in a strange land, and it feels kind of exotic. The other thing I really like about it is I've been kind of like dabbling in learning Japanese over the last year, and watching Japanese media in Japanese is so difficult because there's such a huge gap. Like I need someone in my life who speaks Japanese to speak to me in short, brief, like non-complex sentences. And I feel like Chants of Senaar is like going to a foreign land, and everyone like the way they speak is like, I like apple, and you're like, okay, wait, get this down. I gotta write this down. And they're like, do you like apple? And you're like, okay, I heard apple again. Like people don't talk like that in real life. But everything is so it's like it is a toy box version of going to a foreign land and learning a foreign language. Everything is so simplified that it gives you the same feeling as learning a foreign language, but in like a gamified way.
There you go. It's like Arabic on Duolingo or something. Here.
Exactly.
Getting your hit there. That is Chants of Senaar. That's N-A-A-R. Chants of Senaar. Speaking of towers and beautiful looking games, Jusant, I played a bit of it. This is the Don't Nod game that Jesse talked about last week, the climbing game. I'm really enjoying it. It's on Game Pass, so I went and played it over there. I really think it's fantastic. Jesse was on the money. The climbing is very intuitive. It's very fun, and the world that they build is very interesting. It's just gorgeous. It just looks like it's another sort of like cell shaded-y, really beautifully. Like it has elements of I don't want to say what was the Shadow Colossus folks? What was the one with the animal? Well, actually, no. What was the one with Francois? What's it called again? The one they made before Shadow Colossus.
What's Eco?
Eco, thank you. It's got Eco vibes a little bit. It's not as, it's more colorful, and it's not as quite as cavernous and big, but it has like sort of elements of that, I think, with like a young person on this sort of solo expedition, as it were. Although Eco, you're not solo. Well, she doesn't talk much, so I guess that kind of counts. So I've really enjoyed it. Yeah, I think if you're interested in some of this indie stuff, and especially if the I guess the mechanics of climbing, as we spoke about it with regard to Zelda and stuff, I think that they squeeze a lot out of this. The swinging and stuff is really cool, like putting in your little pit on. Or have you played it as well?
I played the demo through twice. I haven't played the full game, but the demo is like probably the first 45 minutes or hour of the game.
I Jesse talked about it before I played, and then I saw where it stopped, and I was like, oh yeah, okay, that would be a strong demo to basically play that first whole chapter.
The swinging is like unbelievably brilliant. I mean, it's one of those things that's so open ended that like if you gave them like a Spider-Man, shooting webs, I feel like it would ruin the game. So they have to like rein in the ability to let the player just climb all over the place. But it feels like it's like it doesn't punish you super hard for falling, but it still feels like there's an interesting challenge there. But the rope just feels like like it just lets you do whatever you want.
Yeah, I don't know how it doesn't just get like blah, 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 you know what I mean? Just get caught on something. I did some like stupid fucked up stuff with it at one stage, and it got like wrapped around something, and even then it like didn't really freak out. It was like it kind of was able to figure it out. And when Jesse said you don't fall much, like literally a lot of the time when you like go to the edge of the thing, you literally won't let you jump off. Like, but it doesn't ever feel like, it does feel dangerous. Yeah. And I asked him as well if he felt like the willies, basically, you know, like when you're doing climbing stuff, because I often get that in those types of games like Assassin's Creed, and he said he didn't feel it. And I was like, oh, maybe the game just doesn't have that effect, but it actually really does with me. Like I do feel like, oh boy, like palms are sweaty, mom spaghetti when I'm doing some of the stuff. So I've really enjoyed it. I have nothing else to say about it. 4 games we enjoyed this week, it sounds like. The Invincible, which is that a game? I gotta check if that's a Game Pass game. I don't know if it is.
I did check, but it's not.
It's not. Okay. It was only $30. Sounds like, it looks like a game that might be on a thing at some stage. Who knows? But it's also $30. And if that feels like it's too much, you know, give it a save. It'll probably be on sale at some stage. Like a Dragon Gaiden. I can't read the rest of it because Frank's name is there on my Google Doc. It's like blocking the fucking name of it. The man who erased. Thank you, Frank. It was my fault. The man who erased his name. Chants of Senaar and Jusant. Frank, do we have any messages this week?
Yeah, we had one message in our Discord. And again, if people want to write in, podcast at noclip.video, or if you're a patron, or we have our podcast channel on Discord. Mark L. wrote a question. What is your favorite unknown fact about a game? Mine is about the Hideo Kojima game Boktai, where he plays a vampire hunter using an actual sunlight on the cartridge. I discovered by myself that you could use a plasma ball light, the orb lights with electricity running through them, to simulate sunlight in the game. I'd sit and play at nighttime because of vampires and be resting my prized Game Boy Advance on the small ball of electrical frazzle.
Oh my
using
God.
an electricity ball light to cheat a game where you use sunlight to fight actual vampires.
That is absolutely wild. That's a real good example of here's a question, I have the best answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was struggling to think of one.
Try and figure it out.
This is like such an obvious one, but and another Hideo Kojima one. But I love the is it Psychic Mantis reads your memory card?
Psycho Mantis.
Yeah. I haven't played. Is that MGS1 or is that MGS?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
I haven't finished MGS1. I'm just familiar with that, and I love it.
Oh, dude, well, it's so funny because I remember like it only could read Konami games.
Yeah,
and the only Konami game that like a lot of European kids during that era had was like Pro Evolution Soccer. So it was very strange to have Psycho Mantis say, I see you've been playing Pro Evolution Soccer. You're like, you know, just like the least intimidating game he could have talked about. I think it was PES 1 or 2. I forget. PlayStation 1. Man. Hidden favorite unknown fact. It's hard to bring it up in the moment. Trying to think about like weird esoteric Amiga stuff. There's a lot of that.
The one that came to mind is like, I think I said this on the Noclip panel at PAX, but we talked about 50 Cent Blood on the Sands. But there's a story where 50 Cent, when he would come into these meetings to check how his game was being worked on, he would bring his 7-year-old son and he would be the play tester to decide if it was good or not. And his son liked the game, but he said, this is good, but I wish there were helicopters. So 50 Cent told the devs, you heard him, make a level with helicopters in it. So there's a mission in 50 Cent Blood on the Sand where you're like going down the freeway and you're being chased by a helicopter the entire time. And it's so annoying. But the only reason that level is in there is because 50 Cent's son wanted helicopters in it.
Amazing.
And it's like, I love that. That's amazing.
That's unbelievable.
I remember interviewing David Cage years and years ago. I asked him about David Bowie working on Omicron, the Nomad Soul, because I just love that weird fucking game. It's so strange. And he told me a story about how he met David Bowie in a restaurant in London, because David Bowie is like, he sings songs in the soundtrack, but he plays a character in the game who is a musician, who is like you can go listen to him in bars. And this is like how I got into David Bowie, is because of this obscure ass fucking French weird ass video game.
That's awesome.
But he told me a story about how he went to a restaurant or whatever, and then eventually, he was like late, like, and he thought he was like big timing or something, but apparently the tube was late, like the boy just was on the tube. But he turned up with Duncan Jones, with his son, and was like, "Oh, my son's the video game expert here," and I've always wanted to ask Duncan Jones about that as well, because he's obviously gone on to like direct to like the World of Warcraft movie, and has obviously made a bunch of great movies like Moon and stuff like that. So I always thought that was interesting, that like, oh, like maybe Duncan Jones had a hand in some of the weirdness of Omicron, the Nomad Soul. I have no idea. That game is so very strange.
I do have one more. I was thinking more of like hidden mechanics, but if it's just like interesting like facts about games, in Super Mario RPG, I just learned this recently, even though I've played that game 100 times. There are the Sniffets, who are like the minions of Booster and Booster's Tower. And in one area of the game, you can meet like another Sniffet who's not part of their organization. And it's like one of the weakest enemies in the game. And he says that he's in training. And if you let him kill you, then he goes and he joins the Sniffets and becomes one of them. You can go find him and say he's in training. And you can do this. I think you can do it 9 times. And there's just like they line up and say that they're all like the new recruits for the Sniffets. But you have to let the like weakest enemy in the game defeat you when you're like unbelievably overpowered for the fight.
Oh my god, it's like that one guy in Saving Private Ryan who stabs the dude and he lets him go, and then later he kills him.
It's just as dark as that.
Yeah, man, oh man. Yeah, I'll think of see if we can think of any some more for next week. If you have any though, podcast at noclip.video, send them in. Weird factoids. Like I said, a project that we've been working on with Secret Tape may be on the internet right now. Hard to tell. Hopefully it is. Hopefully my hard drive is okay. Aside from that, though, we have documentaries on NHL 94 going on early access next week over on Patreon. Return to Monkey Island as well. NHL Docs is just under an hour. Return to Monkey Island is currently an hour and 40 minutes, but I think I'm going to trim it down a little bit. But there's a lot in there because I was like, Monkey Island fans are sickos, man. You got to give them all the details, all those hot details. We're a sick breed of people. To support our podcast, fund these documentaries, get access to loads of bonus stuff and our official Discord. You can do so over at patreon.com/noclip. And that is episode 151. Jeremy, what are you doing for the rest of your week that isn't coloring footage for this thing that might come out on Friday?
Oh, well, there won't be time for anything else.
You're right. You're right.
Yeah, no, I'm going to do like 14 hours of color grading today and slap that over to you. So it's hot and ready in the morning. Other than that, probably do some game dev, hang out, go for some walks. It's gotten like, we're getting like rainy winters kicking in here, so the mushrooms are exploding all over my yard.
Oh, nice. Are the spiders?
The spiders are out in full force. I've become accustomed to them. I feel like 2 years ago, I would see a big spider and it would, it'd be hard to sleep that night. And I found like a huge spider crawling on my head recently, and I just was like, that's kind of annoying.
Yeah, when I was in Maryland, it got there, and then one day I had a very like humbling moment where I opened I think it was a bag. I think it was like a bag that I had sports gear in, and it was up in my like closet in the bedroom, so it was like miles away from anywhere you could get outdoors, and like a fucking huge centipede walked out of it. And I was like, nope, absolutely not. Like just like a really thick long guy, and I was like, that is hell. Like I cannot deal with this shit. I like smashed it to pieces, and it just like left it there for a couple of hours and came back later. So yeah, I'm with you. I think you get used to it after a little while. So Godspeed. As long as they don't bite you. As long as little red fuckers little red dot don't bite you, you're good. Frank, what are you doing for the rest of your week? I think you're done on this other thing.
No,
I'm
I know.
not going to ask you to record any more pickups. I promise. I promise.
I checked, and I recorded 677 gigabytes of stuff.
Wow.
Which is also telling, because we recorded it like a little bit more compressed this time because it was so much stuff.
Yeah,
it's still a lot.
But you're right. We did, because we knew this was going to happen.
Yeah, so we'll do a tell-all soon, hopefully.
We will.
Tonight in LA, I'm seeing The Hives.
Nice.
Cool. They put out a new album that's like, it kicks ass. So I last saw them like 19 years ago. Wow. So I'm excited to see The Hives. And then tomorrow night, I'm going to a local indie wrestling show John Moxley, Ronda Rousey randomly is going to be there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is she with WWE anymore?
She was. She left. She's left.
She's out. Did she leave or she get kicked? What happened?
I don't know. I feel like I don't know.
She's burning a lot of bridges, man.
Yeah. So I don't know. Will the audience boo? Well, no. This wrestling show is actually good. It's a promotion called Wrestling Revolver, which I think John Moxley has a hand in, or like he promotes it a lot. But it's a relief fund for all of the fires that happened, I believe, in Maui. So it's like for a good cause. A lot of great wrestlers are on there. Billy Starks, Masha Slamovich, Gringo Loco, like a lot of ones I love.
Right.
Mike Bailey. So I'm like, oh my god! And
Gringo
every show,
Loco.
Gringo Loco is an
name.
American-born luchador. He's from Chicago. It's great because I saw him do a luchador match, and it was like this wrestler from Tijuana, this wrestler from Mexico City, this wrestler from Chicago. So no, Gringo Loco is phenomenal. So
that's a good bit.
Yeah, so and every time I go to wrestling shows, I invite more and more friends. I'm getting a big crew together, so it's very fun. And then this is the first Saturday where I don't have anything planned, so I might just like play video games and read comics, exercise. But like I need my brain. I was talking to Jeremy right before, but like with Game of the Year stuff coming up, it's like, oh man, there's so many projects and things I want to do that I just need time just to like sit and chill because my brain's been so hyperactive. So get hooked on something and just relax is what I need.
Dude. I am already thinking of what I'm going to do once this thing is out. I'm like, this is all I've thought about for about 2 months, basically. And apologies to all of our patrons. We missed a patron show last month for the first time ever. Patron show went up today for November. I don't think there was I don't think we put out a doc last month. You will forgive us. That's all I'm going to say. All will be forgiven. So once that's done, I'm going to relax this weekend. The Las Vegas Grand Prix is on. I didn't want to go because it's such an expensive thing. The hotels are cheap enough, but the racing the actual race thing tickets were like insanely stupidly expensive. But I like flirted with the idea of like, I could just go up to a bar in Vegas. You can get a flight to Vegas from here for like $100. It's like, just go do that and hang out maybe for the night. But I don't think I will. I think I'm going to fucking collapse once I'll be happy to watch it from home. It'll be fun. It's like a midnight qualifying 10 p.m. race. So that'll be enough for me. Yeah. I'm going to chill out this weekend and read some comments, hopefully, and relax. Me and my kid's gotten into Lego a bit more. Yes. She's kind of like getting into it. And then me and my wife have gotten into Lego. So we started doing these nights where we'd watch Friends and do the Friends Central Perk Lego set. So we fully built it now and it's a good time. R.I.P. Chandler Bing. R.I.P. Gunther as well. He died a few years back. So
I've never seen an episode of Friends in my entire life.
I think here I might be wrong. Culturally, I've heard that Friends was something girls watched over here, and like Seinfeld was something guys watched, or like our era of teenagers or whatever. Whereas in Ireland, Friends was on right after school. So fucking, I have like a like Star Trek: The Next Generation. I have a like bibliography, the dictionary style like knowledge of Friends in a way that like has really ingratiated myself to ladies in America, like all my wife's friends.
The Rosetta Stone.
Awesome. Yeah, that I know so much about Friends, but it's like everyone back home in Ireland knows everything about Friends because we all watched fucking Friends. It was right on after school.
That's funny. Yeah, I do. I have an encyclopedic knowledge of Seinfeld, so that checks out.
Whereas I had to Google the soup guy thing a few months back. I didn't know about the soup Nazi thing. I was like, it's very funny. But
I can just picture you reading the Wikipedia and going, that's very funny.
No soup for you. I get it.
I get it. I like that.
Yeah. His soup is really good, but they're being picky. And of course, Kramer gets on with him because Kramer's the best character.
It's funny because he's mean. Seinfeld.
Exactly. Yeah. Ethnic. Yeah.
Ethnic and mean. That's a 90s joke for you.
Right. There you go. New York. Yeah. So I don't know. I did a Jurassic Park I got a little so whenever we buy Lego for my girl, I'm like, can I get a little bit of side Lego here? But the problem is Lego is fucking not cheap. So I bought like a Jurassic Park Lego like Jeep, but it was still like $20. I was like, oh fuck, all right.
Damn.
So maybe I'll master builder myself this weekend. Just make some shit with Gen Pop Lego. Just kind of.
Is master builder when you build Legos alone by yourself?
Yeah, it's kind of, it's like this shows that I'm a dad because like in the Lego movie, the master builders are the people who can make Legos without the instructions. You know what I mean? Where you just have the big box of Lego and you make some shit, like the way we grew up playing Lego before they had like instructions and like fucking specific things. So
Gotcha.
yeah,
I was thinking it sounded like masturbation, and that's what I was.
Oh, you're right. It does sound like I'm jerking off onto these Legos
master
that my
building.
child plays
Spend the
with.
weekend master building.
Won't be done. Yeah, I can't think of a less comfortable thing to use to
masturbate with.
You said
feel
it,
like
not
you
me.
There's like rubber tires. I don't know. There's like
look, mate.
Calling the
I'm
hospital.
Not fitting. I don't know about you, but I ain't fitting in those little fucking rubber tires.
They just have. There's a lot of unique pieces. Don't discount. I mean, I know there's a lot of like rough bricks with rough edges, but there's other unique shapes.
And don't kink shame, Frank. Some people like it rough. You know what I mean? Some of those pieces might fit up your ass. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, calling the hospital. You're like, I've got a Lego Millennium Falcon in my ass, and I need help immediately.
Is it still in one piece? Oh my god. Where's Chewie? That's been the podcast, folks. Episode 151 is done, and we'll see you next time. Bye.